we've got a few more signings to dive into.
I mean, this offense continues to evolve as the season goes on.
Welcome into Bucs Insider, presented by Hard Rock Bet Sportsbook. Casey Phillips, Scott Smith, and Bree Dix here, and we have a lot to discuss. Unfortunately,
no fist bump this week.
No fist bump this week, not a win,
No.
and definitely some injury news, which that has been a consistent win or lose this year. So, Bree, what do we know at this point about our injury news, both good and bad?
Well, big hit to the offense. Mike Evans suffered a broken clavicle, and he'll be out most of the regular season, so the 1,000-yard streak comes to an end. And then also Hassan Reddick is dealing with knee and ankle injuries. Still don't have kind of how significant that will be, but Todd Bowles said he is expected to miss some time, so probably a bigger role for Anthony Nelson on Sunday against the Saints.
Which has a bit of a domino effect because Anthony Nelson had been playing literally every single special team snap in the last few games. He's going to see his load lowered in that regard, part of the game. And so some other guys are going to have to step up. Maybe Todd mentioned something about possibly bringing some guys up from the practice squad to help on special teams.
Interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting little domino effect I wouldn't have thought about. So now let's take a look overall at the standings, because it's interesting to think of, okay, lost the game, and if it is an NFC opponent, at least it wasn't a division opponent, but still sitting at 5-2, which of course at the start of the year, if you had said week 7, you'd sitting at 5-2, you'd feel really great about it. So where do we stand at this point, looking at the NFC, looking at the playoff picture to this point? Yeah,
it's really weird how the two conferences have sort of separated themselves, and most of the teams with very bad records are in the AFC. And the NFC, I think, is way more crowded at the top than people expected, because some teams are outperforming what people were expected. But the other thing about it is that they're all beating up on each other. So if you look at this list, Packers are listed first, even though they have 4 wins, because that winning percentage is actually a little bit better. But look at all those teams that are 5-2, and look at them all beating each other, other than Seattle, which does not have any wins against any of these other 5 teams. The Packers beat the Lions. The Bucs beat the Seahawks and the 49ers. The 49ers beat the Seahawks and the Rams.
Yeah.
The Rams aren't even listed up there. They're also 5-2. So we missed that on the graphic. But the Rams are 5-2. Yeah, I clearly forgot to include that. So, and they're all beating each other. So there is so much left to be determined in the second half of this season. The Buccaneers would really be in a much better shape if they go into this bye week with a 6-2 record and start getting some of their injured players back.
Right.
Because you can tell from that graphic it's going to be a dogfight.
It's a very heavy field up top, which is interesting. All right, so let's look back at that game a little bit. Let's start with the offensive side. And Bree, what stood out to you about the game?
I want to give K. Doughton just a little bit of props. Had several critical plays, moving the chains, but really over the last 3 games, he's had 16 catches, 197 yards. And I think he might be a guy that gets a little overlooked sometimes because his numbers may not be quite as flashy, but I don't think there's really that many tight ends in the NFL that are as multidimensional as K. Doughton is. I mean, he can run a full route tree, the corners, the wheels, the options. He's really good on those chip and release routes, also kind of the choice where he can do an inside-outside release, but also just his willingness as a blocker. Stout at the point of attack, has paved the way for several of Rashad White's runs, and also just keeping Baker Mayfield upright in the pocket. And I think really just what is telling about him is anytime you hear Baker Mayfield or anybody talking about him, it's just he's steady Eddie, he's in the right place at the right time, and he doesn't provide a tell to the defense when he's in the game. So really I think he's a really, really big piece of what the Bucs do offensively.
And the one stat that's up there on the screen that you didn't mention was the 95.9% snap rate. He virtually never comes off the field.
Right. And it's been the case for several years now, which is unbelievable.
And as Bree has noted in some of the stuff she's written for Buccaneers.com, as you've said, that really helps with not giving away your intentions when a certain tight end is on the field. Him being on the field does not tell the defense whether we're running or throwing, because he's always out there.
Right. Yeah, that's very true. I wanted to talk about Tez Johnson. He had just 1 catch for 8 yards the first month of the season. Yeah. I mean, for obvious reasons. He was not expected to be one of your top guys, and we've gotten to the point where it's taken essentially our first 4 wide receivers all getting hurt to varying degrees, where now you are asking a 7th rounder that you were hoping maybe you were going to wait a bit and let him develop over time some more, has gotten thrust into the spotlight very quickly. So after that first month of the season, in these last 3 games, 9 catches for 162 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I was just looking at his last couple years at Oregon. He had 2,080 receiving yards and 20 receiving touchdowns. Like, this is clearly a guy that can produce at a high level. And I'm just really excited that he's getting this opportunity so early in his career. I'm not happy about why he's getting it. But the experience and to see how he has stepped up so big, and thankfully he did play for one of those huge schools where it's not like the lights were going to be too bright for him. And he's a little bit different of a wide receiver, obviously, than a lot of our others. Or, you lose a Mike and a Chris. Tez is clearly built very differently than those guys. Different style, different speed. So I'm interested to watch how Grizz decides to deploy that. If it's not like a plug and play necessarily for the guys that have been injured.
It isn't.
It's a totally different way of using him. And I think it's going to be interesting. So I talked to Coach Bowles about it on our show this week, and so I wanted to highlight what he had to say about Tez Johnson.
I mean, he's been doing more the last 2 weeks, and as he gets comfortable with the offense, we understand where he's going to be. He gets a good understanding of how Baker is going to be, and he knows where to go with the ball. And the more he plays, the smarter he gets within the offense. He's a heck of an athlete when he gets the ball in space. He got the screen play. He can make a couple people miss. He's very elusive that way, and he found the end zone.
Yeah, I loved Coach's insight there, and I also loved Tez talking about how he felt like he just mashed the controller. That's what it looked like, too. Like, hit all the Madden buttons, all the moves, all the everything. We hurdle, we spin, we this. Like, I just love that he is that guy that can just create so much separation. He is good at, figuring out the routes and all. I think he's a blast to watch, and the celebrations aren't too bad either. But outside of, Tez Johnson and a couple of those moments, it did feel like the passing game was just a little out of sync. Like some passes that in recent weeks you'd feel like would have been touchdowns or at least completions didn't quite happen. What did you get a sense of for that, Scott? Yeah,
it was clearly out of sync, and it didn't start off well. And we took a lot of deep shots that didn't hit. And of course, one of them, Mike Evans got hurt on. It was a lot of things, obviously. The environment, you have to at least include that. That was a very loud stadium, which can affect an offense. Mike Evans going down obviously was part of it. I don't think it appeared like Emeka Egbuka was at 100% as he played despite having the hamstring injury 8 days earlier. So I guess what I'm getting at is I don't consider this a long-term problem. The injuries are a bit of an issue and a concern, but we've been surviving without them. Baker was just a little bit off, I think, and part of it was Detroit, despite having a really beat-up secondary, had a great game plan and followed it well, played a lot more man-to-man than we expected, and their edge rushers really stayed in, all their frontline guys really stayed in their gaps, and they had linebacker Derek Barnes up at the line of scrimmage looking like a pass rusher, but he didn't really come. He was serving as a spy on Baker Mayfield, and so all those great plays we're used to seeing of Baker escaping a little pressure, maybe scrambling for first down, maybe throwing it, those really weren't on the table. And I'm not sure every team can look at that as a blueprint. I'm not sure they're going to be able to succeed at that. So I'm not concerned about our passing attack. I think it was just one out of sync game.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back to discuss the defensive side of things in that Lions game right after this. Welcome back into Buccaneers Insider. Casey Phillips, Scott Smith, and Brianna Dix here. We just talked about the offensive side of things against the Lions. Now let's dive into that defense. I wanted to talk about Jamel. First of all, last week, how fun for him of getting NFC Defensive Player of the Week on his birthday, and the way that the team made a big deal of it in the huddle after practice. It was very cool. And then, this guy, career high 3 interceptions, 1 off the league lead. I actually interviewed him earlier this week for the radio, and I was kind of asking him, like, what's happened? Why suddenly are we just exploding in this area when it's not like you haven't been trying to do this for a while? And he said he feels like he just feels more confident in his hands now, and therefore feels like he can actually attack the ball more. That I think it's affected his mindset even a bit on whether or not, am I going for a pass breakup? Am I going for the interception? Like, it's really his mindset now that he feels a confidence in his hands, which I thought was really great to hear. And so, I'm just excited about the way he's playing. It's unbelievable. Like, if he continues this rate, which might be a little unsustainable, you never know. But, I think it's a really huge boost for this defense. And I also talked to Coach Bowles about him. Of course, we know they have a very special relationship and how much Bowles has helped him with the mental side of the game. And so I wanted to hear what Coach had to say about Jamel.
He's really been studying, and the game slowed down for him. He's really been locked in, understanding situations and playing the right technique. I think Coach Ross has done a great job preparing him every week, getting him out of practice early and going through little things that he uses in the game. Yeah,
so not only those picks, also has gotten a sack, and just doing a really great job in coverage, and it reminded me a lot of also of Tykee Smith, of another guy that has really been asked to do a lot on a lot of different stat fronts and a lot of different things, and has been playing at an incredibly high level. I feel like those two guys have made some of the bigger splash plays from the secondary all season.
Yeah, well, Tykee, he leads the Bucs in tackles with 58. He also had a sack off a safety blitz of Jared Goff, absolutely came from his blind side, obliterated him. But he's also the only player in the NFL with 50-plus tackles, 2+ sacks, and 5+ passes defense. But really, he's just been one of our most consistent defenders. And I love the intensity with which he plays. He hits extremely hard, delivers a blow at the point of contact, but also just really quick downhill and kind of has that linebacker mentality near the line of scrimmage. And I think has really made a huge impact in also allowing Antoine Winfield Jr. to kind of do some more things with his range, kind of in more of the free safety role.
When you think about our run defense, it's been so good for so long. You think mainly of Vita Vea up front and Levante David in the middle.
But he packs a punch.
Tykee Smith gives you a third really good rep when it gets to run, so you have one at each level.
Yeah, and I talked to Bowles about that, about how, okay, he's leading your team in tackles. Sometimes if you hear a DB is leading your team in tackles, it's a bad thing. But he's like, no, the way we deploy Tykee, that's fine. And so I thought that was good to hear as well. One of the bright spots of this game where there were some struggles, one of the bright spots was third down defense.
Yeah, you know, the Bucs offense got off to such a slow start, and obviously Detroit scored 2 touchdowns pretty quickly, and that game could have snowballed on you. The offense still didn't produce much for most of the game, season low 9 points, but I felt like the defense kept them in the game, even though they gave up some big plays, had, again, some guys falling down, gave up some busts, but for the most part, from a drive-to-drive basis, they did a really good job. They had 4 sacks, 2 takeaways, a lot of really good plays on third down. They only converted. We struggled on third down, but so did they. They only converted 3 of 13. So I really felt like that's kind of been the story with this defense for much of the season. We have had some issues giving up a big play here or there, but they have a lot of ways that they can keep you in the game, and they've done a pretty good job of that.
All right, we're going to take another break here, and when we come back, we're going to start looking ahead to that Saints game right after this break. Welcome back to Bucs Insider. Casey Phillips, Scott Smith, and Bree Dix here. So let's take a look now at this upcoming Saints game. Big one. It's felt like we haven't played a division opponent in quite a minute now, and so an important one, and especially to not lose 2 in a row. If you really want to be a high-level team, that's an important thing as well. I mean, I don't know if it's good or bad to face a division opponent on a short week. You're a little more familiar in some ways, but unfortunate to have a little less time to prepare. And I was thinking about what stands out about this matchup for me is always Alvin Kamara, right? That he maybe, Alvin Kamara of years ago to now a little bit different, but overall, any kind of running back that has the ability of not only running but also being a really good pass catcher makes me a little bit worried. And
We've had some struggles with that.
We've had some struggles with that, and right after I had already decided I wanted to talk about this on the show, I saw Greg Auman tweeted right after that the Bucs defense has given up a league-high 441 receiving yards to running backs this season. And Bijan Robinson, 100, Jahmyr Gibbs, 82, Christian McCaffrey, 57. So now Alvin Kamara is dealing a little bit with an ankle injury. Don't know how that'll affect or limit what he's able to do in general. But, looking at our defense, we talked about the fact that our run defense is what we're sort of known for, and tied for 7th fewest yards per carry given up. We have the 6th fewest rushing first down percentage. So still, operating at a high level on the run defense. So does that make them, even though Alvin Kamara has not actually been as much of a pass catcher this season as in previous years, does it make them decide to try to use him in that way more?
Probably.
And I would say probably. And so I think that's not only for this week and with Alvin Kamara, definitely something for the back half of the season that you're going to have to look out for is, you're limiting some of these incredible running backs, from the actual running, side of things, but the pass catching has been pretty rough. But I know also, of course, the Saints defense, as if, they've got plenty of offensive weapons, their defense definitely has a few key people like Demario Davis.
Yes. Well, he leads the team with 61 tackles, and he's kind of long-standing been one of the best linebackers in the league, but he's one of the most well-rounded too. He blitzes, he defends the run, he's also really good at disrupting the catching window. But one of the biggest things I think too is just how hard he hits when he comes on those A-gap blitzes through the interior. I mean, he can bull rush like a defensive tackle. But he's also a guy that when you listen to different people talking throughout the NFL about what he does mentally, I mean, he's making calls at the line of scrimmage, getting the defense lined up, saying what the offense is going to do before it happens. So just his intellect and his understanding and how quickly he diagnoses, I think, is going to be something they have to know where 56 is.
And so for you, Scott, what are you paying the most attention to for this game and just the importance of it?
Kind of a big picture discussion here that, okay, if the Buccaneers were to not win this game, they would have 5 wins at the bye, and at worst they would be one win off the NFC lead. So you're in fine shape for the stretch run in the second half. But I don't know why, but 6-2, where we stand right now, 6-2, would psychologically feel so much better than 5-3 with 2 straight losses going into the bye, because this team has had problems in the last couple of years with these mid-season lulls. And that is, it doesn't seem like this team is going to have that issue, but you can't help but feel like that's hanging over our heads.
Yeah.
Like, man, this can't happen again.
Yeah.
So this game is sneakily kind of important, I feel like. And but on the other hand, getting to 6-2 and going into the bye and hopefully getting some of your players back from injury after that would actually feel pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like the Buccaneers would really be in a good spot. And at the very least would be a game up in the NFC South, even if the Panthers win another game.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's going to be any division game, no matter when it falls in the season or what's going on, is going to be important, because the easiest way to get in the playoffs is win your division. And the Saints are a team that, no matter what their record says,
Oh, yeah.
It's always chippy.
This is so
yeah,
true.
I don't care. It just, to me, it really doesn't matter. The records for both of these teams just don't really matter, and
100%.
I think a lot can go out the window based on just that rivalry. So, all right, we have one more segment coming up on Buccaneers Insider. We'll be right back. Welcome back into Bucs Insider. Casey Phillips, Scott Smith, and Bree Dix here. Time for our final segment where we get into the numbers of things, and wanted to start.
Where's our graphic?
I know. Are we going to use this forever or never get there? It is. Nerd. Look how happy you look about it too. Nerdy.
It's kind
numbers.
of a glare.
I know.
I'm going to tell you these numbers.
Yeah, I'm going to make you learn these. So Next Gen Stats, one of our favorite places to go for these. We were talking about Yaya and Hassan Reddick. We talked about his injury and just the way that could have a pretty big effect on the defense for a lot of reasons. But I wanted to hear a little bit about what Yaya and Hassan have been able to do off of the edge, because sacks are an easy thing to track, but they're definitely not everything.
The sacks have started to pick up the last 2 weeks. I think we have 10 in the last 2 games. Yaya has 3 in the last 2 games, I think, for a team leading 4 now. But this surprised me when I saw this. I would not have guessed this, that if you see there, quick pressure on 20.9% of dropbacks, and then you read the text underneath. Yaya and Hassan are among only 2 pairs of edge rushers with individual get-off times below 8.8 seconds. That means at the snap, how long are they before they get across the line? And Jonathan Cooper and Nick Bonito in Denver is a really good pairing as well. So I would not have guessed that those two. I know they played well, but I didn't realize they were putting that much quick pressure on opposing quarterbacks, and I think that's. Hassan's going to miss a little bit of time, but he's not done for the year.
Yeah.
So that's a good sign for the stretch run that we can actually consistently put together a consistent pass rush.
And imagine if we'd been able to have Kalijah this whole time, because
man.
he's so good at that too. And then it's
He's
coming
got
up the
great
middle, and
get-off.
Vita too. That makes me sad.
And David Walker.
I know. Wait, I don't even want to talk
He
about
was
that.
having a great
That makes me devastated. We're gonna have like an extra draft pick with him next year, though. That's how we're gonna feel.
That's a good point.
Okay, so then fantasy side, every week, especially because of injuries, we've been talking about who might be a good idea to suddenly start or suddenly roster.
Yeah.
So who do we have this week?
I'm grinning because I feel like I'm on a good roll here.
You are.
With this.
Listen to
Last
Scott,
week
everybody.
we talked about, with the injuries the Bucs had at receiver, is it worth picking up either Tez Johnson, Cam Johnson, or Sterling Shepard? They were all very heavily available. Talked through which ones I thought were the best bets, and hit on Tez Johnson just because I think with the way the roster and depth chart is currently constituted, he's going to continue to get significant playing time every week. And it's clear that he's now not just a novelty or anything like you were saying before. He's a clear part of the Bucs' plan on offense. And so he got you that touchdown last week. If you started him, it was a good game from a fantasy. It wasn't a crazy game, but it was a good game. And I think that's what he gives you, is he's starting to give you a decent floor.
Right.
So that's an exciting thing for him. And the last time I looked at the beginning of this week, he was still only rostered on 5.6% of leagues in NFL.com fantasy.
Wow.
It's probably similar on Yahoo and other platforms. So you can still
snatch
get
him up,
this
everybody.
guy.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's available.
But maybe not for much longer. Look at, like you
Look
said,
at that.
he's mashing every
Well,
button
can I
here.
tell you my favorite number right now? It's the 3 is my number to share for the segment.
3.
3 Johnsons in the wide receiver room now. Because
'Cause
now
we
we
just
just
signed
signed somebody
Brandon
else.
Johnson to the
So
practice squad.
that's my new favorite
Getting a little
number.
confusing.
3 Johnsons out there just to confuse everybody in their jerseys at practice to not know who's doing what. All right, that's going to do it for us on Bucs Insider. Thanks so much for joining us. Enjoy that game this week, and we'll see you next time.